Hi, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of Backstage the Series. I am co-creator and director of Upstage the Series, and I'm very pleased today to have with me Christy Johanson, our line producer, and Karen Cook, our executive producer, and also my wife. And we are in completely different rooms. You can tell from the lighting. In no way are we at all together sitting right next to each other in one space. So first, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's good to be here. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
I don't know if you've had a chance to watch any of the previous recordings, but I've really been thrilled and excited at the people who have been willing to come back, willing to share their stories and memories with us. So again, thank you guys so much for coming. Before we start, I did want to talk about a couple of things. One involves showering. Now, my question is, have I been supposed to be using a washcloth this whole time when I take a shower? Thoughts, opinions, please.
I think as long as you have soap, you're probably in the clear.
I saw something online that was talking about how you're supposed to use washcloth, and I've just been soaping everything since I was a little kid, and I'm a little concerned now that I'm not getting as clean as I could be if I had been using a washcloth this whole time.
Well, I believe there are 2 loofahs in the shower, and one is yours.
I do use a loofah, but I don't know that I'm getting. I may have to try a washcloth and see if that makes any noticeable difference.
Good luck on that journey. Maybe you should create an entire series following Jeff Cook in the shower.
Shower thoughts. It's just me interviewing people from the shower.
With a washcloth.
Yes. And then the second thing I wanted to talk about was Father's Day. How was Father's Day over there?
It was really nice. My parents were able to come. We sat out over behind us here on our back deck. My parents sit on one end and we sit about 10 feet away on the other end and just talk and look at each other and just wave goodbye because we can't do any hugs. But it was really nice.
That's what we did too. We went over. We've seen Karen's parents a couple of times during this whole pandemic. They left for Florida in January and came back in the middle of March. And Karen hasn't so much as hugged them or touched them since, but we have been able to see them a couple of times. So that's what we did yesterday. Went over there and sat a great distance apart, and we really enjoyed ourselves quite a bit. And I got a great gift from Karen today. Father's Day, when you think of gifts for Dad for Father's Day, you may think tools, you may think a tie. I got a ring light. Which is I know,
great.
Right?
Is that why you look so good right now?
No, I haven't used it because since we're sitting together, only one of us would have the dazzle of the ring light, and I have a feeling it wouldn't be me. So so I'm going to try it though for a future recording and see what happens. Did you get Dave a ring light?
No, I got Dave a present, and I can't tell anybody what it is because it hasn't arrived yet. And I ordered it on the personalized gift, so it takes a while. Oh. But I will be happy to present it once it finally arrives. Yeah. It was also not only Father's Day, but our 17th wedding anniversary.
Wow! Congratulations!
17 years of wedded bliss.
That's awesome. You should go on a cruise.
Hey, we did that 2 years ago. I'll bet the prices are good right now.
Oh, yeah. I bet it'll be a good long time before people go on a cruise.
Yep.
Okay, so let us get into Upstage the series and your roles and responsibilities. As I said, Christy, you were the line producer. Karen, you were the executive producer. You were both involved in this almost from the start. So let me start out with a general question. Did either of you ever think this we were actually going to create an entire season of a TV show?
I did. I mean, I wasn't there for the first 3 episodes, so maybe.
Well, that was just the filming, though. But you were there from the very beginning when I said, "Hey, Karen, I have a crazy idea."
Well, that's happened many times. So. But no, I mean, I think from the beginning this project seemed pretty passionate, so I'm not surprised that it ended up being a full season.
Yeah, I agree. I think once I get on board with something, I put my all into it, and I wouldn't have jumped on board if I had thought it was just gonna fizzle out or be nothing. So
Yeah.
I was certainly ready to take it all the way through to the end, and I'm glad we made it.
And were you guys ready for the amount of work that was involved behind the scenes? For those of you who
Nope.
don't know, Karen and Christy were responsible for quite a bit of behind the scenes organization and promotional organization with Shannon Lee Day. And it was a lot of work. We also had a wonderful set designer for the first 6 episodes, Victoria Ross, as well as a makeup artist. Her name was Kelsey, and she was a wonderful person. But other than that, it pretty much fell to you guys. And were you ready for the amount of work that went into making this show behind the scenes?
I think as the series went on, as we did shoot 1, then shoot 2, then shoot 3, you know, we lost our designer, and so Karen stepped in, and I was able to recruit somebody else to kind of fill in that role. But we also our makeup artist was no longer available, and aside from me desperately searching around trying to find somebody and being not able, with being unsuccessful, I stepped in and I did a lot of makeup, and I did a lot of hair.
And a great job,
Yes.
too. And a great job.
Thank you. But every time something would kind of fall apart or we'd lose, the leadership in that role, I just kind of took it on and just picked it up and threw it in my backpack and kept trudging on. So it was a lot of work. It was a lot of work behind the scenes, getting ready for each shoot. And then, of course, it was a lot of work just being on set and keeping everything running from, the first minute we unlocked the doors until we shut them up and went home and crashed in our beds.
Yeah, I think Christy, you took the brunt of most of it, from things changing and having to get extras or having to do schedule changes, and like we could not have done this without you. It's amazing.
Well, right. There was not only extras, but there were also volunteers. I mean, we had over 100 people who worked on Upstaged from the beginning to end. None of them were paid. So it was really a testament to the people involved and your perseverance, Christy, that we were able to get extras and volunteers each time we shot. And for everybody who may not know, we shot the series in chunks. So and correct me if I'm wrong, anybody, but we shot the first 3 episodes, and then we shot the next 3 episodes, right? And that's 6.
Yes.
And then we shot 7, 8, and 9 together. I know 10 we shot by itself.
Right. Yes, we did we did 3, 3, 3, 10.
And then the 3.
And then 11, 12, 13.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and not everybody is signed up for every single day of every single shoot. So the amount of coordination, and not only coordination, but hand-holding and training and encouragement, and not only among the volunteers, but, the cast as well, because those are some long days and attitudes. And and both of you guys, one thing I always remember is that both of you guys really had very positive vibes no matter how bad things got. And I can't say the same for myself. I can't say the same. Well, I can probably say the same for Joel because he just seemed, indefatigable, whatever that word is. Like he never got tired. He never lost his positive energy. And I think the same is true with you guys. So what's your secret? How do you keep a positive attitude when everything around you is bursting into flames?
That's just how I approach management. I have to keep things happy and light. If something is going wrong, I look for, some sort of joke, some sort of something to turn it around and keep everybody else happy. Otherwise, it could be burning down around me, and it's not going to do me any good to complain or cry or get everybody else worked up. So that's kind of how I approach any management job that I have. You got to keep it light and keep it fun. Then I go home and cry.
Agree. And I think when you're passionate about something, it helps because you're excited about what's going on around you and you're dedicated to it. So you want to make it work out. So.
And then you'd go home and cry. Or just throttle me.
I'd go to Christy's house.
One thing in particular that as I was rewatching this episode is, I don't know, I haven't done any sort of count or anything, but I don't know if we filmed another episode that had as many different locations as this episode seemed to. It seemed like we used everywhere in the opera house that we could for this episode. Is it any more difficult to organize shoots? Because I know that Chrissy, you were responsible for, basically you and Joel were responsible for the shooting schedule and letting the actors when they needed to be there, what they needed to do, and then you and Karen would make sure that set was all dressed. And that was not an easy thing because there was continuity from episode to episode. Each place had to look like it did the last time we saw it. And our schedule was so tight that a lot of times someone was tearing down in one room while somebody was setting up in another room, and we were filming in a third room at the time. So talk a little bit about how you guys managed that whole a day in the life of shooting this episode.
I feel like Christy,
it started with me collaborating with Joel and finding out what he needed in terms of the shooting schedule. The next hurdle that I had to overcome was contacting all the actors and getting their schedules because, we were not paid, and a lot of them had day jobs and other acting gigs. And so, somebody might say, I am not available Thursday or Friday, or I'm going out of town Monday and Tuesday. And so we had to figure out how these people could be there at the time with all the other people they had to be in the scene with to get it shot. And there might even be a scene where somebody was in this room and then walking down the hall and then showing up in another room. They all had to be continuous. So, it wasn't always ideal. Every once in a while, Joel would say, why are we shooting on the stage? And then we're shooting in the dressing room, and then we're shooting. And I'm like, because so-and-so's not going to be here, because this was the best we could get. So a lot of times it was a lot of juggling and then kind of coming up with absolute best case scenario. And by the time I was done, by the time we got to shooting, I knew the schedule backwards and forwards. I knew where we were going to be, who was going to be there, who I needed to contact, who was late, who was, needing to change their costume, and, pushing Karen in this direction and pushing someone else in that direction and saying, okay, you go do this, and we're going to do this. And by the time, and then Jeff and Joel would walk into the room and ta-da, ready to go. And they'd be like, wow, this is great. And I'm like, oh, okay, good, let's go.
Super easy.
Yeah. So I always like making it look easy. I find it a huge compliment when people say, wow, you make it look so easy. I'm like,
yeah. Yeah, you do. Now, Karen, you, like I said, you've been involved in this from the beginning when I first came up with the idea, as I've come up with many ideas, everything from forming my own live theater production company to making a TV show to doing a radio show. I can honestly say I could not have accomplished any of this without your support, and your willingness to go along with everything. And we come from a community of creative people. And Christy, I know that you come from a family where you also, from a creative standpoint, require support. What tips would you have, like for people who are in a on one end of a creative relationship, to keep from going insane from just the sheer craziness?
Well, I mean, it helps that that you and I have similar passions. I mean, that helps. But, I think for us, it was understanding why a project's important. So understanding your passion and why you want to do it. But then we communicated throughout the whole thing, like, what's changing, is this happening next, just so that you can kind of know where are things at. It just helps to keep communicating. And then just knowing kind of what it's going to be, knowing it could be, there could be financial impacts, there could be a time impact, there could be emotional impacts, and just knowing what it is so that you kind of have all the cards on the table so that you can fully support the person,
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like we did that really well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there were times when I had to be reined in, and so there are still times when I'm like, what if we, and Karen's like, no. What if we didn't? And Christy, how about on your end? What's the it's a balancing act for sure, right?
It is, yeah. I have 3 kids. All 3 are musical. One is very into theater and dance, and I have a husband who is not necessarily a performer. He does play the trombone. He has a musical background, but he's so incredibly supportive of the, knowing how important being creative and is to me. I am blessed with both creative gifts and administrative gifts. So, but I will say that I prefer to either do one or the other. I would rather, direct or produce or perform.
Right.
When I start to do both, then it gets to be too much.
Yeah.
But yeah, my whole family is incredibly supportive, and then I in turn, get to be supportive of my kids who are pursuing different kinds of performance in their own way.
And I would say your husband was extremely supportive based on being in the show and behind the scenes.
Yeah, he did. You say he's not a performer, but he was in an episode of Upstaged.
He sure was. I think it was a little bit of typecasting. I think some of his lines were something like, well, my wife is really involved, so she dragged me here.
She's making me do this.
Anybody that knows Dave and me, they really, really enjoyed his performance and thought it was pretty funny. It was pretty true to life. But I also want to give a huge shout out to him because he is an amazing chef. He's an amazing cook. He doesn't do it for a living, but I recruited him to be our craft services provider. And whether we were on set for 6 hours or 16 hours, he provided food for some days, breakfast, lunch, and dinner for all the people on set. He incorporated vegan and vegetarian and gluten-free diet restrictions, and his food was always amazing. And
for an entire week, I mean, that was 1 to 3 meals a day for 5 days in a row.
Yes.
I mean, he must have been cooking till midnight every night.
He has such an amazingly efficient and organized kitchen that you'd think he cooked to midnight, but you know, he put in the work he needed to do, but he gets it done fast. That's something I can't do. I'm terrible in the kitchen. But I helped him organize the meals, the ingredients, when they needed to be there, how much, and he showed up. He pulled it off. It was great. Sometimes I was running home to get it. Sometimes I was sending volunteers home to get it. Sometimes he would bring it and drop it off. But everything was hot, fresh, delicious, and I think it was definitely one of the highlights. We couldn't pay people, but man, we fed people.
Oh yeah. And you know what? And I heard that quite a bit, that one of the things that differentiated our set from most film sets that people worked on was not only the people, but not only the people. Sorry, I just had a pop up on my computer. Not only the people, but also the way they were treated on set. You know, with having everything from, like you said, a lot of it was having fun on the set, not taking ourselves super seriously, letting people be free to be creative, but also providing perks like craft services and fruit snacks.
Yeah.
Fresh
Lots
fruit,
of fruit
and
snacks.
fruit snacks. You should save those jewel receipts for your scrapbook or your Walmart receipts. Those will be collector's items one day, you know.
There we go. We fed the stars.
Yes. Yeah, well, it really was. And I just wanted to give a quick shout out here. I've been meaning to do this since I first started, and here we are now on episode 6. But I really want to give a shout out to Daniel Campbell and Betsy Cosgray. Betsy was the one who approached me with this idea of posting the episodes of Upstaged up on the Opera House website and doing these kind of reunion videos where I got to talk to people from the cast and crew to catch up with them and talk about the episodes. And I have really had a blast doing this. It's great to see everybody. I know there's a lot of people that I would normally say I see socially in the course of my life, but that hasn't been the case for the last half a year, it seems like. So it's really great that we have this opportunity to get together and talk. Before we leave for this episode, I really want to just find out, do you guys have any specific memories or stories or anecdotes from this episode, particularly episode 6, that you remember or recall?
Well, I remember I think most about this episode when we filmed in the office with Jennifer Lenius in her costume and the tight hallway, because we had it in this small hallway fit, you know, your sound person, your boom person. Christy and I think, were on script to make sure that if someone needed a line, they had a line. And then in the room, there were people. So, you know, in a matter of a very small space, we probably had 20 people. And I just remember it being very close quarters.
Yes. Everything outside of what you see on the camera frame is wall-to-wall people and equipment.
It really is.
How are you, Christy? Anything you remember?
You know, I think when we shot episode 6 during that second week of shooting, I think that was the first time my title changed. When I first started working on this, we were calling me a production coordinator, because in live theater, in community theater, that is what, you know, that's kind of the top manager who manages the whole production. So I was the production manager. And then somebody who was more into film said, you know what, you are a unit production manager. Oh, a UPM. Okay. So I think maybe episode 6 was when the credits changed of my title. And, you know, I mean, I noticed, my parents noticed, probably nobody else noticed. But then I think you called me today, Jeff, a line producer. And then eventually I was an associate producer. It kind of changed as I took on more and more things that were happening. So I don't know if we ever truly landed on a real title.
Whatever the one is on episode 13 is the one that's the
one we'll go with. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't have one title for everything that you did.
Well, I think that's part of it too, because then I started insisting. I said, I did the makeup. I think my name should be
I did makeup artist. So It's just the cast and then Christy Johanson, a long list of just Christy Johanson.
And I think, Christy, one of my favorite memories of us is in a later episode where I think they're actually putting on the show, and you and I are making movements to show.
Oh yeah, the
and
shadows.
holding boom,
Yeah.
Boom.
We were shooting into the audience, and so we wanted the illusion that there was something happening on stage. So we were dancing in front of the lights, and we kind of synced up and started kind of doing the same dance.
And it looks great for anybody who's seen that episode. It looks fantastic. I mean, you guys really pulled it off on that one, and hopefully our plan is, because we're doing these at the Woodstock Opera House website. This is a fairly big breaking news announcement, everybody. The plan is to premiere the final 2 episodes on the Opera House website at the conclusion of where they would naturally come in. So,
oh, that's exciting.
Yeah, so that's the plan. That gives us, what is it, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That gives us another 5 weeks to get 12 and 13 completed, and then that's everybody. So keep tuning in, everybody. You're in for a real treat, including episodes that, unless you went to our theatrical premiere, you've never seen. It's all new. All right. Well, thank you very much, everybody. That's all the time we have for today. This is Jeff Cook here with Christy Johanson and Karen Cook saying thank you very much. Please join us next week for Backstage, a series with all new guests, all new stories, and maybe find out if I use a washcloth. Never know. Goodbye, everybody.